You love him. You chose him. And some days, in the middle of the exhaustion and the invisible load and the loneliness of being the one who always wakes up first, you look at him and feel something close to resentment. And then you feel ashamed of that, because you love him. And loving him and resenting him simultaneously feels like evidence that something is fundamentally wrong. With you, with him, with the relationship. Here is what I want you to know from the beginning. It is not. What I find most moving about this topic is how many women carry the shame of it alone. The feeling that they are failing at love, that they chose wrong, that something is broken in them. When the truth, backed by decades of relationship research, is that what they are experiencing is one of the most predictable and most poorly prepared for transitions in a partnership. Today, we talk about why it happens, what it actually means, and what couples who navigate it well do differently. What the research actually shows. The first thing I want you to know, because knowing this matters, research by doctors John and Julie Gottman, who have studied relationships for over 4 decades, found that approximately 67% of couples experience a significant drop in relationship satisfaction in the first 3 years after having a baby. 67%. Here is what is actually happening. This is not a sign that your relationship is uniquely broken. It is a sign that you are in the majority, that most couples go through this, and that almost none of them were warned. The transition to parenthood is one of the most significant and least prepared for shifts in a partnership. You prepare for the baby. You do not prepare for what the baby does to the two of you.
Part 2. Why does the relationship shift so significantly after a baby? Several things happen simultaneously. Sleep deprivation, which affects emotional regulation, empathy, and patience more profoundly than almost anything else. Role change. You are no longer just partners. You are now parents. And those roles carry expectations, responsibilities, and pressures that did not exist before. The invisible load, which we explored last week, begins to distribute unevenly, and the resentment that builds around that is real. And perhaps most significantly, intimacy changes. The physical, emotional, and mental availability that sustained the partnership before is now being redirected, necessarily, toward a person who needs it completely. What I see consistently is that the couples who struggle most are the ones who expected the relationship to stay the same. And the ones who navigate it best are the ones who understood that it would change and chose to change together. This is the part nobody talks about. Part 3. This is the part nobody talks about. The intimacy shift. After a baby, particularly in the early months and years, the nature of intimacy between partners changes profoundly. Physical intimacy often decreases, for reasons that are biological, hormonal, exhaustion-related, and psychological. But here is what is actually happening that goes beyond the physical. Emotional intimacy, the sense of being truly known and seen by your partner, can also drop significantly. Because both people are exhausted, both are overwhelmed, both are pouring everything they have into this new person who needs it all. And in the middle of that, there is often very little left to pour into each other. The loneliness of being in a relationship and still feeling alone is one of the most quietly devastating experiences a woman can have. And what I want you to understand is that this loneliness is not evidence of a failing relationship. It is evidence of two people who are both drowning, just separately. That knowledge does not fix everything, but it changes the story you tell yourself about it. From "he does not love me" to "we are both in this. We just forgot to reach for each other."
Part 4. The resentment. What I see in this pattern over and over is that the resentment a mother feels toward her partner after a baby is rarely about him specifically. It is about the asymmetry. The fact that his life changed, but not in the same way that hers did. That he can still leave the house without planning it 45 minutes in advance. That his body is still unambiguously his own. That his career did not pause His friendships did not fade. His sense of self did not reorganize. The resentment is not irrational, and it is not evidence that you chose wrong. It is evidence of an asymmetry that was never discussed. And that asymmetry, when it is named and examined, can be addressed. The resentment is asking for a conversation, not a dissolution. And part 5, what I see in couples who navigate this transition well. They do not expect the relationship to stay the same. They expect it to change, and they decide to change together. They make the invisible visible, the loads, the asymmetries, the things that have been building unsaid. They protect small moments of connection, not grand gestures, a conversation after the children are in bed, 10 minutes of genuine attention. They talk about the resentment, not in moments of explosion, but in moments of calm. And they hear it not as an attack, but as information. And perhaps most significantly, they give each other the grace of being human, of being tired, of being overwhelmed, of not always getting it right. They chose each other before the baby, and they choose each other again, deliberately, consciously, after. If you are in a relationship that feels different to how it felt before, you are not feeling. You are in the most researched and least discussed transition in partnership. And the fact that you are here, trying to understand it, says something important about who you are. What part of this resonated most? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more honest conversations. She is growing in every version of herself.